Jonathan McReynolds stayed silent, quietly letting a rumor grow around him. Today, however, he has decided that it is finally time to speak. His voice is calm, but there is a weight behind it, a quiet intensity that shows how much he has carried this story in his heart. He begins by acknowledging that the situation has been difficult, not only because of the false rumor, but also because of the way it spread so quickly across social media. People have speculated, debated, and drawn conclusions without knowing the real story. Jonathan explains that his silence was never a sign of guilt or avoidance. Instead, it was a choice to wait for the right moment when he could share the truth completely and thoughtfully. As he speaks, there is a sense of relief in his tone, and yet a quiet gravity that makes it clear how deeply the situation has affected him. He wants his listeners to understand that this is not about drama or argument, but about clarifying a misunderstanding and showing that patience, honesty, and respect are far more important than reacting too quickly. This moment marks the beginning of the story he is ready to tell, the truth that has been waiting quietly in the background for far too long. The story really began at a major gospel event, where both Jonathan McReynolds and Travis Green were invited to perform and speak. Backstage, in a casual moment away from the spotlight, the two artists were having a simple, friendly conversation about music, faith, and their collaborative ideas for future projects. Nothing about the conversation was serious or confrontational, yet a third person happened to notice a small part of it and shared it online. The post took that brief interaction out of context, suggesting conflict or tension where there was none. As soon as it appeared online, the rumor began to spread. Fans, viewers, and even casual followers started speculating wildly, sharing clips, commenting, and creating theories about what had supposedly happened. Every innocent gesture, every serious tone or laugh from that private moment was interpreted incorrectly. What had been a normal, collaborative discussion was suddenly a story of rivalry in the public eye. Jonathan and Travis watched quietly as their ordinary backstage conversation was transformed into a rumor that seemed larger and more dramatic than reality. Even though the situation was fictional in its exaggeration, it felt real enough to those following it, and it set the stage for the tension and challenges that would follow in the weeks ahead. As the rumor continued to spread, Jonathan began to feel its weight more and more each day. It wasn't just the casual comments or social media posts, it was the constant buzz of speculation, the whispers from fans, and the occasional questions from friends and colleagues that reminded him the story was growing faster than he could control. Some people assumed the worst, others supported him blindly, and yet more were somewhere in between, uncertain and judgmental. Even Travis Green, though choosing to remain calm and composed, felt the pressure quietly in his own way. Jonathan struggled internally with what to do next. Speaking out too soon could make the rumor bigger, but staying silent felt increasingly heavy. He found himself replaying every word, every gesture, and every interaction in his mind, wondering how a single small moment had grown into something so far from the truth. He reflected on his values, on his faith, and on the importance of patience, reminding himself that timing mattered more than reaction. Every interaction he had, every post he read, seemed to twist the story even more. The tension was invisible to many, but to Jonathan, it was real and constant, a test of his character, his patience, and his commitment to honesty. Deep down, he knew the truth had to be told, but only when he could do it fully, calmly, and with clarity. The heart of the rumor lay in a simple, ordinary moment that had been completely misunderstood. Jonathan and Travis were working together on a new worship project, discussing ideas, giving feedback, and sharing laughs as they brainstormed. To them, it was a natural part of collaboration, nothing more than two friends and colleagues working passionately on something they cared about. But from a distance, someone observed a brief interaction, perhaps a serious look or a short disagreement over an idea, and assumed it meant conflict. That small observation, taken out of context, was shared online and slowly transformed into the rumor that Jonathan and Travis were not on good terms. What had been a normal exchange between two artists was now portrayed as tension or rivalry. Jonathan felt frustrated, knowing that the truth of the moment was being ignored in favor of speculation. Even minor gestures, like a nod or a pause in conversation, were twisted into evidence of disagreement. Despite the misunderstanding, both Jonathan and Travis continued to work together respectfully and professionally, focusing on their project and their shared vision. This moment, completely ordinary in reality but wildly misinterpreted by others, became the core of the story they would eventually need to clarify, showing how easily truth can be distorted when people see only part of the picture. For months, Jonathan carried the weight of the rumor quietly, and the decision to stay silent was not an easy one. He often asked himself whether speaking out sooner would have helped, but he knew that reacting too quickly could make things worse, twisting the story even further. Jonathan wanted to protect both himself and Travis from unnecessary negativity, understanding that the right words at the wrong time could fuel speculation instead of clearing it. He reflected deeply on his faith and values, realizing that patience and careful consideration were far more powerful than immediate defense. Staying silent also allowed him to preserve the friendship and trust he shared with Travis, preventing a misunderstanding from damaging years of collaboration. Internally, Jonathan experienced a mix of frustration, isolation, and quiet stress. But he reminded himself that enduring the pressure with integrity was the right choice. Silence, in this case, was not avoidance. It was preparation. He wanted to ensure that when the truth was finally revealed, it would be done thoughtfully, calmly, and completely, allowing the real story to be heard without distortion or exaggeration. This inner struggle revealed a side of him few had seen, a man determined to act with wisdom and faith, even when the world was quick to judge. Each day brought new messages, comments, and social media posts that reminded him of how widely the story had spread. He felt the pressure not just as a public figure, but as a person whose integrity and relationships mattered deeply. Speaking out too early, he realized, could have escalated the situation, adding fuel to the fire and allowing half-truths to dominate the narrative. Jonathan often reflected on his friendship with Travis Green, knowing that a hasty reaction could harm a bond built on years of collaboration, mutual respect, and shared ministry. He spent long nights thinking about how the truth could be conveyed effectively, balancing the desire to clear his name with the responsibility to do it thoughtfully. Internally, he experienced a mix of frustration, anxiety, and even loneliness, because not everyone understood why he wasn't responding immediately. Yet, within that silence, he found a strange form of strength. He reminded himself that patience, humility, and faith were more powerful than instant vindication. The silence allowed him time to reflect on the bigger picture, the integrity of his character, the sincerity of his relationship with Travis, and the importance of letting the story unfold in a truthful and constructive way. He wanted to ensure that when the truth finally came out, it would leave no room for misinterpretation, showing the world that silence, when paired with wisdom, can speak louder than words said in haste. This period of quiet reflection, although challenging, revealed a deeper side of Jonathan, a man committed to doing what was right, even when the easier path would have been to respond immediately. He learned that managing personal stress with grace and handling public pressure with patience was a form of leadership in itself. By holding back and preparing carefully, he preserved not only his own integrity, but also the trust and respect he shared with Travis, laying the foundation for the moment when the truth could finally be shared openly and clearly. After months of carrying the tension quietly, Jonathan and Travis finally arranged a private meeting to talk openly about everything. The meeting was calm and honest, without any confrontation, but it carried a deep sense of relief and understanding. They shared how the rumor had affected them, personally, professionally, and even emotionally, and both admitted that it had been strange and difficult to see people assume conflict where none existed. They laughed together at some of the wildest misunderstandings, but they also acknowledged the stress, frustration, and pressure that had quietly built up over time. For Jonathan, the meeting was a moment of release, a chance to speak directly with Travis, not just about the rumor, but about how they wanted to move forward as collaborators and friends. During their conversation, they reflected on why the rumor had grown so large and how easily ordinary moments could be misinterpreted when taken out of context. They discussed how important it was to handle the situation thoughtfully, agreeing that when the truth was shared, it needed to be done with clarity, calmness, and unity. Both felt a renewed sense of purpose and commitment, realizing that their shared vision for music and ministry was stronger than any misunderstanding. By the end of the discussion, they were aligned in their plan to finally share the truth in a way that reflected their integrity, their friendship, and their dedication to their craft. This meeting became the turning point, the moment when tension shifted toward action, and the path toward resolution and honesty began to unfold. After careful thought and months of waiting, Jonathan decided it was finally time to speak openly about the rumor. He chose his words carefully, wanting to ensure that the truth was clear, calm, and complete. Jonathan explained that the rumor involving Travis Green was completely false, and that the private moment people had seen or heard had been entirely misunderstood. He described the original interaction, the casual discussion, the laughter, and the shared ideas on their new worship project. Every gesture and tone that had been misinterpreted was clarified, showing that there was never any conflict or tension between them. Jonathan also shared why he had chosen to stay silent for so long. He emphasized that speaking too early could have worsened the misunderstanding, and that his patience was a deliberate choice to protect both the truth and his friendship with Travis. He spoke with humility and sincerity, acknowledging the difficulty of remaining quiet under public scrutiny, while also highlighting the importance of waiting for the right moment. By the end of his statement, it was clear that his silence had been purposeful, a way to ensure that when the truth was finally shared, it would be fully understood and respected. Jonathan's words reassured listeners that the relationship between him and Travis remained strong, and that honesty, integrity, and thoughtful communication were far more important than responding impulsively to rumors. In the end, the story of Jonathan McReynolds and Travis Green is not about rumors or misunderstandings, but about patience, integrity, and the power of truth. Jonathan's decision to remain silent for months showed that sometimes the most courageous choice is to wait, reflect, and respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. The experience reminds us that what we see or hear from the outside is often incomplete, and assumptions can easily distort reality. Through careful handling of the situation, honesty, and open communication, both artists turned a potentially divisive moment into one of unity, respect, and growth. The story encourages viewers to value understanding over judgment, to recognize the strength in patience, and to trust that truth, when shared with sincerity, always rises above speculation. Rumors may spread quickly, but they cannot destroy genuine relationships built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. Ultimately, the lesson is clear. Integrity, calmness, and thoughtful communication are more powerful than any rumor, and choosing these values can transform challenges into moments of inspiration for everyone who witnesses them. The story of Jonathan McReynolds and Travis Green is more than just a rumor or a misunderstanding. It is a story about the strength of character, the power of patience, and the courage to stay true to oneself. Jonathan's choice to remain silent for months was not weakness, it was wisdom. He understood that sometimes the right answer is not the quickest one, and that truth revealed with calm and integrity carries far more weight than words spoken in haste. This experience reminds us that appearances can deceive, and that what the world sees is often only part of the story. By handling the situation with honesty, thoughtfulness, and respect, Jonathan and Travis turned a potentially negative moment into a testament of friendship, unity, and trust. Their story encourages us to rise above judgment, avoid rushing to conclusions, and value understanding over speculation. It teaches that relationships, once grounded in respect and shared purpose, can withstand the noise of misunderstanding and emerge even stronger. Most importantly, it shows that integrity always shines brighter than gossip, that patience always wins over impulsive reaction, and that truth, when finally spoken with sincerity, has the power to inspire, heal, and uplift everyone who witnesses it. This is the lesson that resonates far beyond any rumor. In a world quick to judge and slow to understand, choose truth over assumption, choose patience over haste, and choose unity over division. When we do, even the most challenging moments can become the most beautiful stories. Stories that leave a lasting impact, not just on us, but on everyone who listens, believes, and dares to hold on to hope. And that is the true power of integrity, faith, and human connection. A lesson that Jonathan and Travis turned into a reality for the world to see.